Welcome back. In our last lesson, we learned about several forms used to say whether or not. And in this lesson, I'll teach you about how to say through and according to, as well as some forms that are useful when you're explaining things. And just like before, I'll also be teaching some more advanced ways to do this. First, here are all of the topics we'll learn about in this lesson. Okay, let's get started with the first form. The verb tonghada literally means to pass or go through, and 통해서 can be used to mean through. This is when something happens through or by way of something, or it can mean physically going through something. For example, A 통해서 B means through A, B. 통해서 is used like an adverb to describe an action verb and is used after a noun. Note that 서 in 통해서 is optional. Note that 통해서 sounds slightly formal and is used less often in everyday speech. Instead, the particle 으로 can be used in most cases. To use it, attach 통해서 after a noun using the object marker with a space. So 책 becomes 책을 통해서.
친구를 통해서 들었어요.
I heard it through a friend.
유튜브를 통해서 많은 걸 배웠어요.
I learned a lot of things through YouTube.
뉴스를 통해서 알았어요.
I knew, meaning I learned it, through the news.
투자를 통해서 돈을 벌고 싶어요.
I want to earn money through investing.
창문을 통해서 벌레가 들어왔어요.
A bug came in through the window. The particle 으로 can also be used to mean through. While this will not be a review of all the many ways to use 으로, check out my other lessons. We'll only focus on how 으로 can mean through. It can be used to show the tool, method, means, material, machine, or channel by which something happens. More simply, it shows what's being used in order to do something. A few common translations are using, by means of, with, out of, on, via, and through. For this usage, it's more common to use 으로 instead of 통해서 for everyday speech.
과외를 통해서 돈을 모을 거예요.
I'll save up money through private tutoring.
과외로 돈을 모을 거예요.
I'll save up money through private tutoring.
모기가 저 구멍으로 들어왔어요.
A mosquito came in through that hole.
친구가 유튜브로 유명해졌어요.
My friend became famous through YouTube.
인터넷으로 주문했어요.
I ordered it through the internet.
편지로만 연락했어요.
I contacted them only through letters. Note that 으로 does not have all of the same nuance as the word through. In these cases, use 통해서 to avoid sounding vague. For example, when doing something through a person, use 통해서. The following sentence would be incorrect to use 저로, meaning using me.
저를 통해서 사면 더 싸요.
It's cheaper if you buy it through me. Simply, when the word using would sound vague, use 통해서. The following sentence would also be incorrect to use 학교로, meaning using school.
학교를 통해서 합격 연락을 받았어요.
I received an acceptance call through the school. The particle 가지고, not the grammar form 가지고, can also be used like the particle 으로 to show what's being used in order to do something. 가지고 is only used in informal speech. It should not be used in more polite or formal speech or in writing. To use it, attach 가지고 after a noun, using the object marker with a space. So 책 would become 책을 가지고.
오이로 김치를 만들 거예요.
I will make kimchi using cucumbers.
오이를 가지고 김치를 만들 거예요.
I will make kimchi using cucumbers.
원숭이가 바나나를 가지고 나무를 때렸어요.
The monkey hit the tree with a banana.
소금을 가지고 불을 끌 수 있어요?
Can you put out a fire with salt?
수건을 가지고 바닥을 닦았어요.
I wiped the floor with a towel.
그걸 가지고 뭘 하려고요?
What do you intend to do with that? kajigu comes from the verb kajida, meaning to take, to have, or to carry, and literally means taking, having, or carrying. Because of this, it also has the nuance of physically using, holding, or taking something. The particle uro does not have this extra nuance.
아이가 장난감을 가지고 놀았어요.
The child played with the toy. In the above sentence, replacing kajigu with uro would have a different, less natural meaning. Instead of the child played with the toy, it would mean the child played using the toy. The form eurosseo can be used to mean through doing an action verb instead of a noun. This means that something happens through or by way of some action. It's not used for physically going through something. Using eurosseo sounds formal and written. It's not used in everyday speech. This form works by attaching eurosseo directly after an action verb that's been changed into a noun using the form or mium. To use it, attach directly after an action verb stem that ends with a consonant, or attach mium if it ends with a vowel. Then attach eurosseo. So, hada would become 함으로써, and 먹다 would become 먹음으로써. There are some exceptions which I've noted here. So here are a few examples.
선크림을 바름으로써 피부를 보호할 수 있어요.
I can protect my skin through putting on sunblock.
저는 새 차를 삼으로써 얻는 행복이 커요.
The happiness I get through buying a new car is big.
감독은 영화에 조용한 음악을 씀으로써 긴장감을 표현했어요.
The director expressed tension through using quiet music in the movie.
요즘은 SNS에 사진을 올림으로써 팬들과 가까워지고 있어요.
Lately, they're becoming close with their fans through uploading photos to social network services. Note that the form eurosseo should not be confused with the particle eurosseo, which has a similar pronunciation. While the form eurosseo is used after an action verb with the form or mium, the particle eurosseo is used after a noun, similar to the particle euro. Eurosseo is used to mean in the position or capacity of someone. This can also translate as acting as, or simply as. In fact, the particle euro can also be used like this, but the particle eurosseo only has this one usage.
오늘은 학생으로서 참가했어요.
Today I participated as a student.
한국어를 배움으로써 자신감이 생겼어요.
I gained confidence through learning Korean. Another particle is eurosseo, which has the same usage as euro, but only to show what's being used in order to do something. It can't be used for the other uses of euro. Eurosseo is much less common than euro and sounds more formal.
대통령은 국민의 투표로서 결정됩니다.
The president is decided by a national vote.
뮤지컬은 노래와 말로써 사람들에게 감동을 줘요.
The musical touches the hearts of people with songs and words. 따라서 comes from the verb 따르다, meaning to follow. First, 따라서 can be used by itself at the beginning of a sentence when giving an explanation and means it follows that, or simply therefore. 따라서 is formal and not common in everyday speech.
비가 많이 옵니다. 따라서 오늘은 소풍을 갈 수 없습니다.
It's raining a lot. Therefore, we can't go on a picnic today. The form 에 따라서 comes from the verb 따르다 and means following with or according to. This can translate as depending on. To use it, attach 에 따라서 after a noun. So 책 would be 책에 따라서. Optionally, remove 서. This is less common. This form is often used together with the verb 다르다, meaning to be different. For example, 에 따라서 다르다 is a common way to express it depends on.
날짜에 따라서 장소가 달라요.
The place is different depending on the date.
시간에 따라서 위치가 바뀌어요.
The location changes depending on the time.
규칙에 따라서 행동해 주세요.
Please act according to the rules.
상황에 따라서 가져가야 하는 게 달라요.
What I have to bring is different depending on the situation.
날씨에 따라서 갈 수 있는 곳이 달라요.
The places I can go are different depending on the weather. 에 따라서 can also be used after verbs when used with the form 지, meaning whether, in any tense. This becomes 지에 따라서. For example, A 지에 따라서 B means depending on whether or not A, B. This is commonly used in sentences with question words, such as 어디, 언제, 어떻게, etc.
무슨 요일인지에 따라서 달라요.
It depends on what day of the week it is.
뭘 넣었는지에 따라서 가격이 달라요.
The price is different depending on what they put in it.
몇 시까지인지에 따라서 달라요.
It depends on what time it's until.
영희는 어떤 옷을 입는지에 따라 분위기가 바뀌어요.
Depending on what kind of clothes Youngie wears, her vibe changes.
누가 오는지에 따라서 계획이 조금 바뀔 수 있어요.
Depending on who comes here, the plans can change a little. The form 야에 따라서 is used in the same way as 지에 따라서. However, 야에 따라서 is an older grammar form and is less common. To use it, first attach 느냐 or 냐 to a verb stem, depending on the type of verb. So, attach 느냐 directly after an action verb stem in the present tense or the past tense. So, 하다 could become 하느냐 or 했느냐. For descriptive verb stems, instead attach 냐. So, 좋다 would become 좋냐. Then attach 에 따라서. Traditionally, this 냐 is actually 으냐 after a consonant and 냐 after a vowel. However, nowadays, 냐 can be used in both cases. There are some common exceptions, and you can pause the video for those.
어느 팀이 이기냐에 따라서 달라요.
It depends on which team wins.
연습을 얼마나 하느냐에 따라서 실력의 차이가 날 거예요.
Depending on how much practice someone does, there will be a difference in skill.
문제가 얼마나 심각하냐에 따라서 걸리는 시간이 달라요.
The amount of time it takes is different depending on how serious the problem is.
날씨가 얼마나 더우냐에 따라서 약속이 취소될 수도 있어요.
Depending on how hot the weather is, the appointment might be canceled. The form 에 의해서 and 에 의한 can also be used to mean due to or by in passive speech. 에 의해서 has the same usage as the particle 에 and 에게, but has more emphasis and is less common. 에 의해서 and 에 의한 are used in the same way as 으로 인해서 and 으로 인한 as an adverb or as an adjective. To use it, attach 에 의해서 after a noun. So 그것 would become 그것에 의해서. Optionally, remove 서. This is less common.
태풍에 의해 도시가 파괴됐어요.
The city was destroyed due to the typhoon.
소방관에 의해 구조됐어요.
They were rescued by firefighters.
인공지능에 의해 많은 직업이 사라질 거래요.
I heard many jobs will disappear due to artificial intelligence.
그 병은 바이러스에 의해 전파됐대요.
I heard the disease was spread by a virus.
어떤 동물들은 사람에 의해서 멸종됐어요.
Some animals went extinct due to people. 에 의한 is used when describing something, a noun, that something is due to or happens by. You can think of 에 의한 as meaning something that is due to or that is by. To use it, attach 에 의한 after a noun, so 그것 would become 그것에 의한.
스트레스에 의한 두통으로 고생하고 있어요.
I'm suffering from a headache that's due to stress.
실수에 의한 결과가 너무 크네요.
The result that's due to the mistake is too big. The form 에 의하면 comes from the verb 의하다, meaning to rely or lean on, and means according to. It's used after a noun to mean according to, and it's used when citing or quoting something, or when explaining the basis of a fact. The form 에 의하면 can be used in formal speaking and writing, not in everyday speech. To use it, attach 에 의하면 directly after a noun. So 책 would be 책에 의하면.
규칙에 의하면 이렇게 해도 되는 것 같아요.
According to the rules, I think it's okay to do it like this.
소문에 의하면 철수와 영희가 가족이래요.
According to rumors, they say 철수 and 영희 are family.
헌법에 의하면 모든 시민에게 투표권이 있습니다.
According to the Constitution, every citizen has a right to vote.
선생님의 말에 의하면 이번 시험은 쉬울 거래요.
According to what the teacher said, I heard this test will be easy. Another way to say according to is with the form 에 따르면. This comes from the verb 따르다, meaning to follow, and can be used in the same way as 에 의하면. 에 따르면 is a formal expression and is not used in everyday speech.
일기예보에 따르면 내일부터 비가 온대요.
According to the weather report, they say it'll rain from tomorrow.
검사 결과에 따르면 저는 건강해요.
According to the exam results, I'm healthy. The expression 예를 들다 comes from the word 예, meaning example, and means to give an example. It can be used in several ways when explaining something at the start of a sentence. All of these can be translated as for example. 예를 들어서 literally means giving an example and can translate as for example. The 서 is optional. This sounds like the speaker is simply going to provide an example and is the most common of these options. 예를 들면 literally means if I give you an example and can also translate as for example. This sounds less direct and softer. 예를 들자면 literally means if you let me give an example and can also translate as for example. This sounds more like the speaker is thinking about what they're going to say. Optionally, you can add 하나, meaning one, or n, to any of these to mean one example. For example, 예를 하나 들자면. 건대 is used to express the speaker's opinions, thoughts, or wishes. It's used with verbs related to these, such as 생각하다, meaning to think, 듣다, meaning to listen, 느끼다, meaning to feel, 보다, meaning to see, 짐작하다, meaning to assume, 원하다, meaning to want, and 바라다, meaning to hope, among others. It has the nuance of saying, I'll tell you what I, and sounds like the speaker is confessing something. 건데 is an older grammar form and is less common. To use it, attach 건데 directly after an action verb stem in the present tense. So 하다 would become 하건데.
바라건대 이 제품에 대해 모르는 사람이 없게 해주세요.
I'll tell you what I hope is to please make sure that there's nobody who doesn't know about this product. When using the verb 하다, this normally becomes 하건데. This can further shorten to simply 건데 if the word before 하건데 ends with the syllable 기역, by far the most common, the syllable 비읍, or the syllable 시옷.
짐작건대 철수는 오늘도 아무 말도 안 할 거예요.
What I estimate is that 철수 will not say anything today either.
제발 부탁건대 모두 참여해 주세요.
What I ask is that everyone please participate.
생각건대 그때에는 이렇게 될지 몰랐을 거예요.
I think at that time, they wouldn't have known it'd turn out like this. In addition to 건데, alternatively, 하건데 can also shorten to 건데 if the word before 하건데 does not end with the syllable 기역, by far the most common, the syllable 비읍, or the syllable 시옷.
고민컨대 이건 답이 없어요.
What I worry is that this has no answer.
요컨대 이건 영이 실수라는 거예요.
In summary, I'm saying this is Youngie's mistake.
원컨대 다음 생에는 부자로 태어나게 해주세요.
What I want is please let me be born rich in the next life. And that's all for this lesson. Remember to take your time, take lots of notes, and practice everything in this lesson before moving on. And I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.